But what the myth has to provide, I mean, just on this immediate level of life instruction, the pedagogical aspect of myth, it has to give life models. And the models have to be appropriate to the possibilities of the time in which you're living.
I think most people would agree that myths are great vehicles to convey morals and universal truths. But for me, a person interested in studying ancient Christian texts, it raises a more interesting question. Can myth be scripture? Let's explore how this thought can be applied to the apocryphal story of Susanna. This story is among the apocryphal writings in the Septuagint, but not in Protestant Bibles. So, Susanna is a beautiful Hebrew woman who is accosted by two Jewish elders hiding in her garden. The two elders threaten to claim she was meeting a young man unless she has sex with them. Gross. Susanna doesn't give in to the blackmail, goes to trial, is accused and sentenced to death, when all of a sudden Daniel, the guy from the lion's den, Daniel busts in and Sherlock Holmes style deduces the mystery. He interrogates the two elders and neither of their stories match up. One says the incident happened under a mastic tree. The other elder maintains it happened under an evergreen oak tree. They're ultimately found guilty and condemned. Case closed, mystery solved. The story was written for diaspora Jews during the Babylonian exile. It's referred to as one of the diaspora novellas, not to be confused with a telenovela. But one question persists. Why does the story appear in some Bibles, but not others? Is this story scripture? Levering and Cantwell Smith argue that the contemporary notion of scripture is substantially, if not entirely, Western. In the Western world, scripture is a written medium of divine origin. But that definition isn't true in all religions. Does scripture have to be written, as in Judaism or Christianity? Is scripture oral or recited, as with the Quran? For our purposes regarding Susanna, an interesting question is, can myth be scripture? Smith seems to argue that the distinction between myth and history is a relatively modern notion. Whereas before the Enlightenment, the Bible was thought to represent inerrant science, later generations found value in the underlying morals of biblical tales. So we can see that how scripture is regarded changes with time. According to Levering, scripture is a relational term. It refers to special kinds of relationships that people enter into with these texts. Furthermore, Smith argues that a fuller understanding of scripture, or anything for that matter, requires the study of its history, the people, cultural implications, and social interactions. As he says, by all means, let us know how it became, but let us also study further how and what it went on becoming. The study of history must be in large part the study of creativity.
All things are metaphors. That's what we all are.
So, is the story of Susanna a metaphor? Certainly. Is it scripture? Well, the answer to that question is no doubt complicated and one that involves several of the factors already mentioned, but also requires an exploration into many more considerations.